Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal's space program, where we are still working on our Eve mission planning, but I think that we need to send a mission to Eve that is not our Eve mission. More specifically, we need to know where a good landing site is, right? So what I want to do is I want to send a bunch of little probes to Eve and try to scope out a landing site, because we're never going to find one through that atmosphere. So let's go ahead and leave this facility, and let's hop over to the VAB. And what I want to do here is I want to simply create a structure with a ton of super simple satellites. Now, we're going to have, like, Octo 2s as the basis of those. And they don't need much. Basically, all they need is an Octo 2. I want them to have... They really only need the single parachute. Honestly, a drogue chute would probably do the trick. But I think just a regular Mark... That's a Mark 25. Just a regular Mark 16 parachute. And we'll probably want a heat shield of some description on this. And maybe a battery. Maybe a battery. We're not going to need any source of power generation. These are not intended to last very long. So let's just put on just a small Z200 battery like that, and then a heat shield. That's a big heat shield. A little heat shield like that. That's the concept here. So I'm going to save this as the Eve probe. And we literally don't need anything else on here. We don't need communications. We don't need a power source. We don't need science experiments. Literally the only purpose is to try to find a reasonable landing site. That is, you know, not ocean. That's what we're looking for right now. So I think we're going to have... How many of these is the question? Well, we can then put a decoupler on the bottom of this. And then think about maybe using like an engine plate or something to create like stacks of these. That would be interesting. Potentially. We'll put a TD-06 right there. Apparently that doesn't have a shroud when there's a heat shield. Fascinating. Well, that's not relevant. Shroud is enabled. Okay, I don't know. I got nothing. So then the idea is, what would we be able to do in terms of actual additional stacking? Now, we can't really stack these vertically because the parachute doesn't have an attachment point. What if we removed this parachute and attached the parachute... I don't care about it coming down, like, sideways. What if we attached the parachute instead with a radial mount and had it go, like, right here? And then we're able to attach in a decoupler or something. Or maybe we would use, like, a cubic octagonal strut like that and attach the parachute... Like, that's too big, I feel like. I feel like a radial mount drogue chute would be more than sufficient to land this. I don't know that for a fact. Like, look at the size of that thing, though. We gotta have it outside the heat shield. That's very important. Like, that's the most important thing, is that this heat shield is able to do its heat shielding. So maybe we would need a modular girder segment on this for the additional size. Oh, that's way too big. Way too big. An octagonal strut doesn't really do what I want it to do. There's this micronode. That is a potential option. But again, these parachutes are going to be so big. What we really need is a teeny tiny parachute. A teeny tiny parachute. Not sure that such a thing exists. We could just use a Mark 16 and be like, well, we can't stack it vertically. That is an option. So if we were to save this and then create a new ship, we would want this one to be based off of a remote guidance unit. And probably this one. This is a decent size. We would want an ASAS on this, for sure. So we would put that in. And then we would definitely need a proper power source for this one. We'll put in a larger battery pack, and we'll also put in some solar panels. Again, we're just going to go with some kind of little solar panels. We don't need anything huge. Something kind of like that. And then the question is, what can we get done? Let's see, where was it? Right here. What can we get done in terms of sizing with engine plates? Or maybe like... Maybe like a stack tricoupler or something? We don't have a quad coupler. Yeah, I'll have to think about this. Engine plates would definitely be useful. So we could potentially do like something like this. And have there be like 8x1 attach points. And then, well, we would need to save this as the Eve probe launcher. And then we would open in... Yeah, save and continue. Then we would open in the Eve probe and merge that. We don't really have a way to attach it. Yeah, that's a small problem, actually. Well, I guess we can just use this as a guide, and we would then put in a decoupler. So just a TD06 for each of these. And another TD06 in the center, like that. So this is going to be able to haul a total of 9 probes in this configuration. And that's okay. So we would do that, and then we would, of course, want to have like an Octo 2 for the pods. Like that. And then we would want to have a teeny tiny battery. Like that. And then just the parachute. Now the question is, how exactly is this going to be maneuvered? Are we going to put the whole thing in a terminal velocity and then decouple and then pull it out of a terminal velocity? That's a question that needs to be answered. Maybe we should have a teeny tiny fuel tank on these, along with a teeny tiny engine. So it would be, for example, it would be something along the lines of... Hang on, I need to be in engines. That would help. It would be not a Terrier, but rather a Spark. I believe. Is Spark right? No, I don't think it's Spark that I want. Which one was it? Or was it a variant of Spark? No, it was the Pug. That's a little too big. That is definitely too big. Okay. The Pug was the one I was thinking of. We could use the Ant. That's an option. What is it? An engine for ants? Indeed. So the Ant would, of course, go in like that, in theory. And then we would put like a teeny tiny fuel tank in there. It would need to be like the absolute smallest fuel tank we've got, like the Oscar A. And the question then would become, just how much delta V does this actually have in each of these probes? Now, that is quite a question, isn't it? Quite a question indeed. Now, these have a built-in antenna, which should last long enough for this thing. Now, I do want this to potentially have a relay antenna on it. Not like that. but to have a relay antenna on it somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where yet. It may not be in this stage here. But what we should probably think about... What size are we on here? Okay, we are on a T800 size. So we'd do like a T800, and then we would do a pug for this. Like that. And then we could definitely have a relay antenna on here. Like so. And then in theory, we might be able to put a fairing on here. And of course, we can get rid of that. But we would have an additional one of these stacks right here. So we'd have 9 probes, 9 opportunities to find a decent landing site. And if we fail, we can always try again. It's not the end of the world. I think I'm going to move these photovoltaic panels to down here instead. Oh, that's not in symmetry. We'll do that. Excellent. And honestly, I'm not sure that we need a fairing on this. Maybe we do. The real question is, if we were to save this and ditch everything except one of these cores, like we would reroute this to be this Probodobodyne Octo 2, and then we remove everything else. The question is, how much delta V does this actually have? So we do something like that. Remove the decoupler as well. This is 179 meters per second over Kerbal. This is a minute and 10 second per... Oh, this is altitude of 0. This is 705 meters per second over Eve. That's probably sufficient for what we're looking for. Yeah, that should be enough. That should definitely be enough. So we're going to put all this back and ditch this over here as well as this. I'm going to reroute this once more, and we're going to have the route be the remote guidance unit. There we go. Excellent. And now the question is, how do we lift this up? And also, do we want to potentially have a different antenna? I think this one would be okay. I really, really do. So let's go ahead and put a decoupler here. This is our final, like, Eve stage here. I want to have a maneuvering stage here, and that's going to be like a Jumbo 64. We'll do an adapter. And I believe the adapter that we wanted was not this one. Or this one. Perhaps, no, not that one either. Let's just search for adapter. Oh, it should be with an E. That helps. That helps. No, not that one. I can never remember which one it is. I think... Does that one go to Rockamax? I want one with fuel. I know there's one that we have access to that just goes directly to Rockamax from the 1.25 meter, which is good, but it's not this one. Okay, so which one is it? Not you. I think that's the one I had before. Nope, not you. Not you. Okay. It's got to be one of these. I know there's one that has fuel that we can do. I mean, that's the Rockamax brand adapter there, but that is only a structural part. It doesn't have fuel in it. So we can definitely do something along the lines of this, and then a second one. I know that that's something that we can do. Like that. It seems like we had another one, though. It seems like we had another one. Now, the question is, do we want this to be like a poodle? And then try to lift all of this with a mainsail? I feel like that's going to be too heavy. Let's give it a go and see exactly how that ends up working. We need a TD-25, and then we would need, say, a pair of Jumbo 64s. I think this is going to be too heavy. Like, even if we heavy lift this. I feel like it's going to be too much. That's the Ant liquid fuel engine. Okay. That's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with for sure. 1.05 is this mainsail's thrust to weight. So we, at the very least, we would have to heavy lift it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drop this, and we're just going to lift it like so. And we may end up heavy lifting this even so. What's that look like? Well, this is completely wrong in terms of its in terms of its staging, but that's not surprising. That's about 4,000 DV, 1.5 thrust to weight. Okay, let's get our staging correct here, and we can check to see if this is looking good. So, what is this decoupler? This decoupler is that guy. Yeah, that's got to go way up here. These are going to happen, like, manually. And it'll be something along the lines of that. 1.46. Okay, that's maybe a little on the low side, so we'll definitely do something about that. These all basically are getting stuffed up in this stage, and let's go ahead and grab these decouplers, like that. And then the engines will happen at the same time, like so. And then the parachutes can go in over here. And then this decoupler, that's the engine plate. Okay, that can stay where it's at. And then this liquid fuel engine should fire when this decoupler drops off. Okay. So, stage 3 has how much delta V? Oh, okay, that's plenty. That should be plenty. And if we heavy lift this, we can probably do our inclination change, escape Kerbin's gravity with this stage, I think. I hope. Let's go ahead and heavy lift it, and let's put in, say, we need to have the coupling. Let's put in radial decouplers, and we'll put those in right about here. And then we're going to utilize, we got Clydesdales at this point. Are those bigger? Let's see here. 1,300 kilonewtons, 3,300 kilonewtons. Those are absolutely bigger. Okay, these are the biggest SRBs we've got by a hefty margin. They are very, very large. Very, very large. To the point where I am currently considering adding more liquid fuel to this first stage. Let's go ahead and grab the decouplers here. I want to move them up. There we go. Okay. I want to move them up to about there. We're going to need some aerodynamic nose cones on these guys. That's too little. Do we have a bigger nose cone than that? Those are very small nose cones. This guy. That's the guy we need. Okay. I think we should add more fuel to this, honestly. This would be like a 32 fuel tank? Maybe another 64. A third jumbo 64 tank? I feel like that works. We need to check thrust to weight here, of course. 1.76. That's solid. That's a good thrust to weight. Move it down a little bit further here. I'm very concerned about aerodynamics on this thing. There's no doubt about that. We're going to need to strut this together. So we'll do a strut connector from here up to, I would love it to be here. I guess that works. I kind of hate it, though. Don't connect to the solar panel. Connect, like, right below the solar panel. Yeah, that'll work. And then we'll also strut it in down here. I am slightly concerned about aerodynamics for one thing, for sure. I'm also a little bit concerned about the detachment of these. We'll see how that goes. We're going to need a simulated flight for this. There's no doubt about it. But it's not like we're going to be short on delta V on this thing. I can tell you that right now. These decouplers... Oh, this is very wrong. What is this decoupler? This decoupler should go up here. And... yeah, that's a TD06. And that's a TD12. Yes, that is correct. These should be separate out here. Okay, like that. Now, our aerodynamics are going to be hot garbage right now. So let's go ahead and grab some aeroplane tail fins here. And this guy will do the trick. And we don't have our aerodynamic overlay on. Now we do. I have a feeling if we did this, we're still going to tip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the aeroplane tail fins like here, and then another round of them like here. That should be reasonable in the aerodynamics. Now, we're going to do a simulated launch here to test our aerodynamics, as well as testing our separation event. Those are the 2 points where I think that this could see some substantial failure. Also, we're going to be getting going pretty quick. I kind of want to see how that's going to go. Our thrust weight is what, 1.76 at launch? 1.75. Okay. This is going to be real interesting. This is not intended to be refueled or anything. This is just hauling all of these probes up over there. I feel like this is probably a little bit overkill, but I tend to like to build overkill. So let's see how this goes. We're going to be hitting 100 meters per second pretty quick. We're very stable so far. And let's go ahead and begin a turn. So far, so good. A little wobbly on the turn, but that's not anything unusual in KSP, to be clear. And we're checking for atmospheric heating on this communications dish as well. We're seeing if that burns off. What's our apoapsis height right now? About 20 kilometers. Okay. Sounds good to me. And let's just stick on this prograde for right now. Aerodynamics seem completely fine. 100% okay. We're starting to move pretty quick here. There's no doubt about that. I'm actually going to cut our main engine here. And we're just going with the SRBs right now. Yeah, we're getting going pretty quick, and we're aiming pretty high here. We can't stop the SRBs right now, to be clear. Separation looks good. Our apoapsis is way up there, so we probably want to throttle down our mainsail pretty dramatically as we're doing that launch. But overall, this looks good to me. In fact, should we just, for the sake of time, graduate this from being a simulated launch into being a real? We could do that so that we don't have to change anything. I mean, nothing needs to change. That worked perfectly. So I think we'll go ahead and graduate it for the sake of time. And let's go ahead and move over to that maneuver node. We should definitely get our solar panels extended before I forget that. Wonderful. We've got power. We've got turn authority. This all looks pretty good to me. Now it's going to be some time before we reach the apoapsis here. As I said, this was a little bit too much thrust in this first stage, but we've got a lot of delta V here. A whole lot of delta V here. So we are going to go ahead and warp towards our circularization here, just as soon as we get arrived here. And by the way, this is no longer simulated. This is now a real flight for the purposes of time. I just feel like we don't need to launch it again. That worked completely fine. And I wouldn't make any changes. So all looks good to me. And we're going to burn this at T minus 20, what, 6.5 seconds? Yeah, T minus 26.5 is the goal here. So we will burn that right about now. And off we go on our circularization. And we will be able to do a lot of interplanetary work with this stage as well. That's very, very powerful, those new SRBs. No doubt about that. It is, however, about time to put a cut in here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish getting us into orbit here, and we'll take these guys to Eve in the next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I will see you all next time after we finish up this burn. Let's just get this one done. We don't have to be perfectly circular, it's okay. We'll just get this into a stable orbit. Boom. All good. Fantastic. I will see you all next time.